Cowboys Nation, Cowboys Nation. Man, we had a win on Christmas Day, and you gotta love a win on Christmas Day. You really have to really appreciate that. But it did move us from drafting number 13th to, at the end of the day, drafting number 15th. That may not be the best situation for the Dallas Cowboys, but that's where it is, and that's where we are. So we're going to start talking a little bit about what this game says for the rest of the offseason. And we're going to talk about it right now.
They are an accident waiting to happen.
Stephen A, hush your mouth, talking all that noise. You can hate all you want, but we still them boys. Dirty, dirty D, Texas where we stay at. Me decide in order till you know that's where we play at. Hey, this year, this the payback. Yeah, we them Cowboys, and now we don't play that. Work. This is Cowboy Nation. Work. Welcome to Cowboy Nation. Work. Y'all can keep on hate. Work.
Cowboys Nation, Cowboys Nation, Cowboys Nation. We got a lot of stuff that's going to be going on in the offseason. I think some of the top topics for the Cowboys, we can start with Dak Prescott, right? Dak Prescott is going to play a huge part of what the Dallas Cowboys are going to be able to do in the offseason, because he is probably going to have to renegotiate his contract, and not necessarily renegotiate it as in like the amount of money or anything like that, but definitely renegotiate it so that it doesn't hit the salary cap the way that it currently does. Now, according to overthecap.com, there's about $30 million in the salary cap that the Cowboys are able to get back by just restructuring the Dak Prescott contract. And I believe that since he just made a guarantee, right? He just said, we will not be in this spot again next year at this time. I feel like he has to, right? Especially if it doesn't affect his mind. I feel like that's something that he has to do in order to keep his guarantee correct. So I got kicked into the room today. So I'm in my room instead of where I normally am, because the family is here. It's the holidays and the guest room is taken up. So kind of is what it is right today. So we are going to talk a little bit about some of the things. There is another video. If you go to my page, please like, subscribe to this page so that you can continue to get quality Dallas Cowboys content. Okay. But if you do go to the page, there's also another video, and that video talks about the salary cap and the things that the Cowboys are going to have to maneuver around in order to have a productive offseason. When you start to talk about trying to get into the free agency market right now, that's going to be difficult for the Dallas Cowboys because they are upside down. They basically have about $50 million negative, and that has to be taken care of prior to March when the new year begins. So with that being said, there's going to be a few things that's going to have to be done, and you can't just take away the $50 million. You got to actually create some space. So you really need about $100 million worth of created space if you want to really make at least 90, right? If you really want to make a difference, because George Pickens is going to require 28 million. I'm not going to say at minimum, because again, if you sign him to a long-term deal, you could probably work it out to where it's not costing $28 million. I still feel like that is a more reasonable and promising thing to do, to actually be able to grab. And in my opinion, like I said, from a negotiation standpoint or just a running a business standpoint, if you do the 28 million, it's going to count for 28 million. It's just a 1-year contract, and you're putting him on the franchise tag. If you are going to negotiate with him, well, you probably want to negotiate with him prior to him hitting the market. Hopefully you don't make the same mistake that you made with this same agent last year, and you can actually get that done sooner than later, right? So George Pickens, I wonder, after you watch the Dez Bryant, not documentary, but just conversations that Dez Bryant has had, and then you start to notice that all the passes now are going to CeeDee Lamb instead of George Pickens. And I have to assume, I'm not going to lie to y'all, I'm not going back and watching these games again, because at the end of the day, there's not a lot. I may go back if there's a particular player that I want to go back and watch, but I haven't just gone back and watched them like I did earlier in the season because they're not going to the playoffs, right? So there's just not a lot that I'm actually doing. However, I may want to see if George Pickens is really being doubled, or are they trying to keep his numbers low so that he doesn't, be able to ask for as much money into next year? Because as Brian said, there were times where they were trying. I know that those were times they were trying to keep bonuses down. But if you're willing to make decisions from on the field play because of finances, which is basically what you're doing when you're trying to keep somebody bonuses down, you're trying to keep them from getting a certain amount of yards so you don't have to pay out more money, then you would be willing to ensure that they don't continue to run up the stats so that they'll be worth more in free agency, right? I mean, that's just a thought. I'm not saying that that's what the Cowboys are doing, but that is a thought, a possibility, something that could be going on. And in that situation, then I don't know. I'm not sure that it makes sense, right? Because he's still the number 3 wide receiver when it comes to yards. He's going to be able to demand a certain amount regardless, even if he doesn't catch a pass in this last preseason game. So I'm not sure if that technically makes a lot of sense for the Cowboys if that's what they were doing. So maybe they aren't doing it, but it's just something to look into, something to think about. I just noticed that the balls just aren't going his way as much. Again, maybe they're double teaming him more and leaving single coverage on CeeDee Lamb, although that doesn't make a lot of sense either. I can't tell you if I'm going to have a deep ball, an opportunity for, 50-50 ball. I probably would rather that go to George Pickens than CeeDee Lamb. Not that CeeDee Lamb is a bad wide receiver. I'm just saying if I had to pick one, I'm probably picking George Pickens. So maybe they are double teaming him and keeping him away from the ball. That's a possibility. So what is it for this Washington Commanders game we saw that actually affects the offseason, right? That's what we're really supposed to be talking about today. And I think a lot of that is, I guess, we'll start on offense, because to me, most of this stuff that we want to talk about now is going to be on offense. On defense, right? It's pretty simple. Our defense sucks. They're not getting any better this year. I'm not looking necessarily to see how a lot of people are playing. I will say a couple of things about the defense in a minute that will affect the offseason. But I think a lot of it comes for the offense, right? Because your goal through changing out, hopefully, your defensive coordinator and through your draft is going to be making your defense better, right? I think in that situation, you're going to have to do some things in free agency to assist keeping your offense where it is, because I mean, you have some missing pieces on offense that you would like to make better, I believe, and then you have some pieces that you're going to have to figure out, right? So on offense, we already talked about the George Pickens situation. You have to figure that out. You have to figure out how you can get him on this team without breaking your salary cap, right? So that's a number one thing. I personally feel like that is a 3 or 4 year contract instead of a franchise tag. I don't think that you can legitimately afford to franchise tag George Pickens because that extra $28 million is going to hurt you. That's just how I feel when you're already $50 million upside down. So I think that's a little more difficult. Now, Javonte Williams, which is the running back, that's somebody else that you would have to really look at. He was on a 1-year deal. He's definitely somebody that you would want to keep in the game. If you watch this particular game, I mean, you can definitely tell the difference between Javonte Williams running and the backup running. And it's not that I don't like the backup, right? That's not it at all. I'm just simply, since we're talking about Javonte Williams, I don't want to use any names to make people feel like, oh, he's talking negative. But no, I'm not. I'm just simply saying Javonte Williams stands out as a number one back. I would have wanted to see Phil Maffa. I would have wanted to be able to see him. Obviously, it's not time to be able to see him yet, but we're going to have a running back situation again that we had fixed this year. But you don't want to go in next year not having the threat of the running game again. That's kind of what what we want to be able to avoid. So that means either A, you're going to bring back Javonte Williams. Um, Whether you do that as a franchise tag, a 1-year deal again, or a long-term deal. When I say long-term, maybe 2 or 3 years, deal to where you can have him locked in and not have to worry about it every year. But in order to do that, again, you're going to need to free up some space in your salary cap because he's on a 1-year deal. So he's technically not negative against your salary cap from what's on overthecap.com right now. So you're going to have to figure out the running back situation. That may mean letting him go because he's earned more money, right? Again, just like I said about George Pickens, there's a situation where a 2 or 3 year deal may make more sense for you because it spreads out your salary cap hit, right? So there are some possibilities that go along with that could actually help them out a little bit when it comes to what they're going to do with Javonte Williams. And with that, if you do decide not to go back with Javonte Williams, then you're going to once again be in the free agency market looking for a running back. And that's important because in the draft, you have 2 firsts, but then you don't have a second or a third. So you don't come back again into the 4th. So in the 4th round and beyond, there are no guaranteed hits for running back. There are no RB1s that are guaranteed. I'm not going to say there's no RB1s in the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th round. That's not a true statement. There's no guaranteed. Excuse me. There are no guaranteed RB1s in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, right? Nobody is just a guaranteed, or that person's definitely going to translate to a top running back in the NFL. Because if he does, then that person's probably going to go in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round, right? So I think that you would have to either get Javonte Williams back in, or you got to find another running back that you feel can do a very similar job. And I haven't even really looked for running backs that were out there. I've looked for offensive linemen, offensive tackles. We're going to start to get into. Actually, my first video is going to be about an offensive guard that may be available because of some injuries that they've had. So we'll do that. My next video to be about that. But I haven't really looked at what running backs would be out there for a replacement for Javonte Williams. But he definitely showed in this game that he deserves an RB1 spot somewhere. We just got to hope that it's with the Dallas Cowboys, right? I think we spoke about in the last video that we also have make sure that we get our kicker back, right? Butter Aubrey, even though he has missed a couple of field goals here in the last couple of games, I'm glad he's getting them out the way now while we're not going to the playoffs. So hopefully he'll be back on target again next year, so that we'll have some opportunities to win some games off of his leg, right? So that's going to be very important as well. So from the offensive standpoint, I think the offensive line is the only other thing that I haven't talked about. We still have an offensive tackle issue. I know that they've kicked out Tyler Smith. I don't expect Tyler Smith to be stuck at offensive tackle next year. I could be totally wrong. I think it's a situation where, hey, I'll do what I have to do in order to keep my quarterback upright for right now, because they felt like TJ Bass in the middle is better for a couple of games than having anybody else on the outside for right now. But I do believe that we should have a little better opportunity about or movement rather, as far as the offensive tackles that will not be Tyler Smith being kicked out to the edge. I know that Tyler Guyton was doing a lot better this year before injuries. I don't know how they feel about the injuries, if they're going to keep him, if they're going to be bringing him back. Like I said, I felt like he was doing a much better job if it wasn't for those injuries. So there's a possibility that now in his 3rd year, he gets even better. Everybody that we have doesn't have to be an all-pro, doesn't have to be a Pro Bowl player, right? But somebody that's serviceable from the tackle position. I felt like Tyler Guyton was at least serviceable from the tackle position. Terrence Steele, on the other hand, to me, is somebody that you would want to cut, right? That's somebody that you definitely would want to get rid of because he just doesn't show out enough for me in the pass rush. There's way too many situations all year long where he was literally demolished, pushed right into the lap of the quarterback, and I just don't believe that's somebody that you want to, especially with the salary cap hit that he's currently giving you guys. I don't think we want to keep him at right tackle. That just it doesn't make a lot of sense. He's going to have to get cut or is going to have to do something to renegotiate or something. I don't know. I personally would want to see him cut. Not because I don't like Terrence Steele. It's not a good move for them to keep him as a starting right tackle. Um, Maybe if you can keep him at a little bit less as far as money is concerned, then he might be a good backup for you. Come in, spot plays, different things like that. But I'm not sure that I'd want him to be my star, and I'm not even sure I'd want him to be that because I know what I'm getting from him isn't going to be good enough. But apparently, it's better than a lot of other stuff that we got. So that's why one of the first things that we're going to be doing is going to be looking at some offensive linemen that could be possibly available in the off season. Now, before I let you guys go, I will say that there are some things on the defensive side of the ball that I feel will affect our offseason program, right? One of the big ones is Siobhan Revel to me, because a lot of people are talking about, and even when you look, there was a touchdown. I don't think it was this game. I think it was the previous game where I felt like it was good coverage. It was a catch in the end zone, all that kind of stuff. This is the NFL. People are going to catch touchdowns. I felt like Siobhan Revel was in a good position. I mean, his hands were, pretty decently close to where the football was. He just wasn't able to get it this time, with no pass rush and everything else. To me, you back there playing 7-on-7, and I don't know what you expect from a defensive back playing 7-on-7. Eventually, the offense is going to win. I mean, that's just the way that I see it. So I don't have a situation or something where I feel like Siobhan Revel is horrible and has to be replaced. Now, I really feel like Siobhan Revel, with an entire offseason behind him getting ready, is going to make a decent cornerback. And maybe he's not the cornerback that's going to travel and shut down wide receivers. And you may need to find one of those because apparently Trayvon Diggs either is not one of those or won't be here. I don't know which one it is yet. But I think Siobhan Revel will be okay. I think Deron Bland can be okay. He to me proved that he's not an outside corner, right? Deron Bland should be your slot cornerback. And so that means that you do still need to find an outside corner on the other side, and hopefully you can do that in the off season. Now, I don't know if that's going to come in free agency. It would be great to get somebody maybe that has a little bit more experience to do that, because sometimes it's hard to find a cornerback in college that can just translate again automatically to, this is going to be a starting cornerback. But we'll see kind of where we go with that situation, and a lot of that is going to be determined with who you bring in as a defensive coordinator. Because again, Al Harris as a defensive coordinator, your cornerbacks are automatically better. Like the ones you have right now are automatically better, right? So that's going to say a lot from the defensive side of the ball, and that's why I'm not saying a lot about it, because I refuse to believe that our talent has all declined at the same time that much. So, I think that a lot of what we are seeing is bad coaching, is bad schemes. There was a situation where I was literally saying, like, there is absolutely no way, I'm talking absolutely no way, all of our defensive ends have failed to be able to get pressure on a quarterback. Like, some of these guys were doing incredible last year, and just none of them are doing well. I think it's in the scheme. I think it's in what you are asking your defensive ends to do. And in asking them to do that, you've taken away their opportunity to get to the quarterback. So a lot of what we're going to see from the defensive side of the ball, I'm just not ready to just say somebody needs to go, because I want to see what it looks like under a new defensive coordinator. So that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. That's my reaction for what this game, this Washington Commanders game, meant for the offseason. Tomorrow we're going to start to talk a little bit about other players. I told you we're going to get into offensive linemen that may be available in the free agency market and kind of what they would mean for the Cowboys. So until then, I'll see y'all tomorrow. This has been Defending the Boys. I heard D. Will, and I'm out. Well, I thought I was out, but apparently they don't like my out. There you go.